Hello, Raoul.
All right, hello. So I can't see you, sadly, but let's give it a try. If everyone else can see you, I'm more than happy. Can everyone say a thumbs up or give a thumbs up if everyone if you can see Renaud? All right,
Hopefully.
let's see. Um,
Yeah.
all right, perfect. So great, Renaud. Thank you very much, first of all, for bearing with me on this technology. Like I told you, I mean, it worked out in the test, and now it's not working. But I'm really happy that this worked out. And I know you are a busy man. But again, thank you very much for joining.
Welcome, Raoul. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know Amouage. I started late with Amouage, to be honest. Because I started my journey with very artistic niche, and then later via Alessandre and we are the people I got to know. I mean, we all know Reflection Man, we all know Interlude, Jubilation, but then being a part of certain launches in the recent fragrances, especially the library collection. I've gotten to learn there is so much that goes behind the scenes, and you get your hands quite dirty. Uh, it's not only the packaging, the bottling, but the creation process and everything that goes around it. And I thought it's definitely a story that needs to be told. And here we are, and I'm really glad that we are speaking.
Yeah, definitely. It keeps us busy. It's quite fascinating job to be, working for Amouage. It's an honor for me, and I love also, living in Oman and learning all about a culture that I did not know a few years ago. So yeah, it's really for me it's something super exciting, and I love it. So I love to share, the passion, the love, and I love to work with the people I have the chance to work with, and yeah, it has been a beautiful journey for the past 3 years.
3 years it's been, so I've always wondered the role of a creative director because I've talked to creative directors before. So for people who don't know the role of a creative director for a brand like Amouage, so what are the things that you have to do for when you do a creative direction for a global brand like Amouage?
Well, I think in general, the role is to I think my role, at least at Amouage, is to understand, okay, what is the spirit of Amouage and the founders of Amouage, so the family that owns Amouage. What do they want to achieve through perfumes, and how to get there based on what has been done in the past, and really, trying to understand the past, the archives, and so on, and then trying to understand as well um, what is unique at Amouage, what can be done with what makes Amouage unique, and that's what I'm trying to do every day.
Right. I mean, like you mentioned, the brand itself has had a rich legacy. And when someone like you, who comes like 3 years ago, what kind of homework goes behind it to learn, or what did you kind of learn in the beginning that kind of helped you to where you are right now? So was it about kind of course, smelling the fragrances, but I see Amouage shares a lot of behind the scenes, and that seems to be very important also for you. So I'm curious, first of all, how long it took you to get into the brand, and what was the process like, kind of learning the essence, like you mentioned, learning the
Yeah.
essence of the brand.
Um, the thing about Amouage, the great thing about Amouage is that there is a huge archive. There is a huge history and so on. So it's a great thing because you can actually, learn and know about everything that happened in the past. But at the same time, it makes it also quite complex, and it can be a bit intimidating because you have the feeling that many things have been done, and that could be, potentially blocking you a little bit. But you ask like, okay, how long did it take you? I think, still today, I keep on smelling things that, I had not smelled before. There was, for example, recently I smelled actually, and I discovered a fragrance called Salala that was released I think in the 90s by Amouage, and it's something I had not actually studied before. So I keep on studying
Okay.
things actually that I discover every day. But then, what was the question again? Yeah,
How long did
you,
it take?
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Continue, please. Sorry.
Yes, the idea is then you need to, I think, you need to be familiar with what has been done. And it's really about understanding what makes the uniqueness of Amouage. If you think about it, Amouage, in my opinion, Amouage is quite unique in the industry because one, it comes from Oman. So it means that, you have access to different ingredients, you have access to different philosophy and so on. So what makes Amouage unique? Also from a technical point of view, Amouage owns, its factory. Amouage can actually, distillate, blend, put things together locally and so on. And Amouage produces, ages, packages, distributes, and so on around the world. So in a way, if you think about it, and if you're a bit familiar with the perfume industry, there are not that many houses that own that
Do
many
everything.
steps of the process. And for me, that's really what I noticed actually when I joined. I was like, this is quite unique. It does not exist anymore. If you go down every day, you have people putting samples together. Like putting fragrance inside samples and so on. Today, if you think about the perfumery, this does not exist anymore. You have fillers around the world and so on. And those are the type of things that you externalize and that you delegate. What I love here is that most of the process is in-house, which means that one, you can do many things from a creative point of view and so on. And then the second thing is that you can definitely tell those stories. And I felt that the way actually to make Amouage feel different and to help people understand why it's so different was actually by sharing genuinely, but in a qualitative way. I think the processes behind them were.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something that feels personal with Amouage, also because if you compare it with other brands that are uh, primarily in the same, let's say, price segment and brand value. Uh, the fact that the brand feels more personal is because there's a lot of behind the scenes that you share on the social media. There are people who are scraping resins from trees, or the fact that you mentioned that the bottling, everything. It's so many hands that one bottle passes through before it lands in a consumer's hand. And I think this is one reason why also the brand feels very personal.
Yes, and the philosophy was a little bit, usually I think you see those videos where everything is staged. Um, and I that people understand that it's not genuine. When you see that everything is pristine, everything is perfect, and so on, and you realize that this is all staged and that this is all storytelling.
Yeah,
And what I wanted to achieve with Amouage was actually to be quite transparent. You might see the real thing, when you look at our videos and so on, or the visuals, but at the same time, I think the production quality, and when I say production quality, it's obviously, the way we film, the way we take images and so on, but also the depth of what we try to write. It's a mix of being poetic and technical at the same time. I think hopefully it conveys something genuine. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. Like, this is storytelling, but I think it's not storytelling for pure marketing purposes or something like that. It's actually about trying really to share genuinely what is happening every day at Amouage in a way.
absolutely. And for me, the most surprising point was when I joined the launch of Material and Boundless. Of course, as a consumer, you receive when you see a box, you see there are different colors on it. But when you when you see how much depth or how much thought goes behind it to create those visuals. And I think that's something I really appreciate, because other brands in the same price segment, for example, they have some kind of a monotonous. I have few brands in mind, and I don't want to name them, but they have certain kind of a monotonous tone. But when you look at the library collection, and for example, other launches in the behind before that, you realize how much work goes behind, especially in the imagery. I mean, there is everything that has a you can feel it. I just can't even imagine how much work goes behind even adding certain textures or the imagery, for example, Boundless had or Material had. So I see it that the imagery and all the artistic things play a huge role for you in creating and working on different um, collections for Amouage, and that's something I really find fascinating.
Well, thank you, Raoul. And if I may, so that all came from, thinking about the evolution of richness in a way. So, Amouage has always been associated with richness and generosity and so on. So, fragrances are very complex, and the aesthetics were in the past very rich with a lot of ornaments and many things going on. And in my mind, the take on richness and the aesthetics of richness, actually they evolve, and today they are not what they were like 10 or 20 years ago and so on. So the intention, the creative intention, is actually to keep Amouage very rich and complex with a lot of depth and so on, but at the same time adapting the aesthetics to what I feel richness should be today. Because Amouage should never be minimalistic, for example. Amouage should not be like plain or something like that. Amouage should be rich, but that richness should come probably more from one, the nuances and the details and so on, the depth as well of everything that goes behind the brand. And yeah, just a different take on the aesthetics. And I'm trying to always connect everything. So that means the visual identity, the fragrances, the sounds and everything that goes around Amouage.
Absolutely. And I think Eduardo here writes, most luxury perfume bottles are tacky. I love the more natural luxury quality of the new bottles. And I think this is exactly what I'm mentioning. Like, what is luxury, right? Like, how do you convey or portray luxury? There has to be enough depth, and the fragrance itself needs to say that. But I think what you do very well is the textures, the imagery, including the behind the scenes, and really telling the story from what it is, and not some made up story that consumers very quickly feel and realize that, hey, it's made up and it's a marketing campaign.
Well, and I just took actually a box. So this is, for example, the new packaging of Gold Woman. So as you can imagine, Gold Woman is like an icon, in the perfume industry and so on. It's a product that started it all for Amouage in 1983. So if you have the old packaging in mind, it was actually a packaging like a cloche like this with a lot of velvet inside, lots of materials, quite a lot of metals and plastic and so on. So it's definitely not the type of packaging that is that in a way embodies the future of luxury, particularly when it comes to sustainability. However, I cannot move gold from one day to another into something, super minimalistic and sustainable and all of that and so on, because that would not meet the expectations that people have of Amouage. So the idea, and I wanted to use this example to explain a little bit the thinking. So first of all, the previous packaging was completely gold. And what you can see here, obviously, I'm a big believer that actually, if you want to express a strong idea, it's quite important to create some kind of negative space around it to be really, to create an impact. And I think, you look at this shield of gold and so on, and despite the fact that it's only a small percentage of the the surface of the box. In a way, I think you only see that in a way on this box. So it's one of those examples. And then obviously the work around, I have a lot of discussion about organic, like in terms of aesthetics, like how can I move from something that feels a bit like an overload of gold and gold and gold and gold into something that feels a little bit more organic. And when I say organic, I mean like it just feels, a little bit more natural. It flows a bit more logically and so on. And that's, what the work that we've done with Louise, the artist I work with on those packaging. And she was actually playing with fluids, and she played actually with natural and real gold and so on. But then we worked on those. So that's one of the examples of trying to evolve from being very respectful of the past, really understanding, okay, Amouage is about richness, Amouage is about generosity, but then trying to bring this to life in something that feels very relevant and contemporary today. Sorry.
That's really amazing, and I think everyone who's listening definitely could agree with it. Another thing that I was thinking is when you think about the past of Amouage, you have fragrances like Jubilation, Interlude, the list goes on Imitation, Reflection Man. When you have such a rich past and fragrances that have their own signature and have their own audience, how do you go about recreating them? So I haven't smelled the new Reflection Man and Epic, the new line. Is it the Extrait line? So I'm just curious, how do you go about, let's say, redoing them with respecting the original one, but also giving the audience something new?
So yeah, it's a good point. So when it came to the exceptional extraits, so we decided to name them this way because Amouage had extraits in the past, but I personally felt that the difference actually between those extraits and the eau de parfum, I felt that it was not obvious enough. In a way. And sometimes when I looked at the technicals of those fragrances and so on, sometimes you had a few percent of difference of concentration and so on. So I don't know, you had the eau de parfum that contained 20% of oil, and then the extrait was at 25%. And to be honest, I mean, sometimes I was not, perceiving that much the difference. So in the end, I don't know, if you look at the fragrance industry, we have the eau de parfum, we have the extraits. I think the worst thing to do is to release an extrait that is disappointing in comparison with the eau de parfum. And it can happen because actually, it's not about dialing up the concentration, because actually doing that is often disappointing from a client point of view, because a higher concentration means usually a lower volatility, and something a bit more dense and so on that could be perceived as somehow not as strong as the eau de parfum. So I with the extraits, I really want to create something that's definitely of a higher, like something deeper, something bigger, rounder, with the same character as the original fragrance, so really, really close to the original fragrance, but something just bigger. And it's quite difficult. So when I talk to the perfumers and so on, so I worked with 4 different perfumers on the exceptional extraits, and I told all of them, well, I want to work at a very high concentration, only if that makes sense, because again, I don't want to do it just to say, oh, it's like that high or something like that. So
Right.
and I want the difference to be noticeable in terms of performance and all of that. And that's really what happened with the X-rays. And in the end, we said, okay, it means, so working at a higher dosage, it means sometimes changing, the balance of ingredients and so on to reinforce that difference. And it means also using everything that we have at Amouage that can maximize that difference. And most of the time, it's the aging. And we realized that by aging actually fragrances for quite a long time, you actually maximize the differences between an eau de parfum and an extrait. Some perfumers would tell you, well, it's weird because you change the character of the fragrance. You know, your top notes are going to be kind of softened or something like that. And you might say, well, actually, they lose, you know, their pristine quality. They lose their spark and so on. But actually, it's the effect that we are going after. You know, with the extraits, we want something a bit rounder. We want something richer, deeper. And that's the work that you have done.
That's really fantastic. I can't wait to smell it. I never happened to get my hands on them, but I think they are available in Munich somewhere. But that's really amazing because I always wondered, right? Because also people perceive flankers or, like you mentioned, the higher dosage. They take that with a grain of salt and really compare what are the real differences. But thank you very much for explaining it. I don't know. If you don't mind, we could, if I could take some questions from the audience because the question box is really blowing up. Let me see. All right. John asks, is there any fragrance from the past that you would want to give that Amouage style? Obviously in theory, but I'm not sure if he means Amouage fragrance or another fragrance that you like.
Any fragrance from the past? Wow.
Yeah.
That I would like to give that Amouage style. It's a good one. To be honest, sometimes I have references, you know, in mind and so on, and I'm always thinking like how could I make a fragrance that I love that I sometimes, you know, find a bit too, I don't know, thin or disappointing from a performance point of view and so on, you know, like could I do something, you know, with everything that you have at Amouage and so on, could I get that perfect fragrance? And in the end, what you often realize is that there is most of the time a reason why some fragrances are a bit thinner, why, you know, they have that kind of beautiful quality that does not last or something like that. So so then usually I have some references. I'm thinking about a few of them, but I'm also trying to come up with original ideas, and this is something that I've been particularly obsessed about recently, about not revisiting the past too much, but really about quite open-minded to and pushing new accords, pushing things that are different from what I perceive as the norm in the fragrance world. So if you I don't know if we can talk about Royal Tobacco, for example. The intention was really for that one was to say, okay, we are going to tackle the topic of tobacco, but we want to be as far as possible from what we consider a little bit cliche on the market today when it comes to tobacco fragrances. So that's the discussion, and how to create something bold, to create something with a lot of impact that goes as far as possible from what, you know, people think when they think tobacco these days. So, you know, something a bit spicy, a bit sweet, a bit woody, a bit boozy, and so on. But that to us, you know, was not really what we had in mind when we say tobacco.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll speak about Royal Tobacco, which has been right now my favorite from the library collection. But you know, I always wondered when you are a creative director of a brand like Amouage, and you talked about not going too much in the past. What about trying other contemporary brands? Because there is a lot of good work also out there. So you don't have to name a brand, but do you also follow what's going on in niche in general, just in order to know where to position the fragrance? Because if you look at, I'm not saying the original fragrances, I mean, they were timeless. So I don't say that they were old style or vintage. So I mean, Reflection Man is, for example, as relevant it is right now than it was before. But if you look at boundless material, Royal Tobacco for that instance, they're very contemporary. So do you also look into the current niche brands and what they are doing in order to see where the market is heading?
Yes, I do look at them because I mean, first of all, I don't want to create something that is too close to something on the market and so on. And unfortunately, you know, it happens. Sometimes you get to smell things and I'm like, wow, like, you know, I thank God I'm smelling a little bit, you know, what the other ones are doing and so on, because then, I mean, the thing I hate is, you know, you create something and then people say, oh, it smells so close to this, that I hate. So I'm trying to avoid that.
That's amazing. All right. That answers my question now. There was someone who said, who asked the question third time, if you had limited budget, what would you change in the retail experience of Amouage? I already think from the retail packaging that I've seen, you already do a great job. It feels like you don't feel like there are bounds. But if you had no foundations on the budget, what would you change in the retail packaging?
In the retail packaging. So, I mean,
Or experience.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the packaging, I think the big challenge is going to be, again, and I think it's a beautiful design challenge for any creative in the industry. How do you meet actually the needs and the evolution of the, you know, of the expectations of people, which is definitely going to be about more sustainability. How do you tackle that, providing like what people expect as well, which is richness and generosity, because those two things, they don't go well together, you know. And for me, like I would love to crack that, and I think the way to crack that is through a strong, like, I think you need a very strong artistic, I mean, direction, but also just art in general, and you know, the artists I'm working with, I think, you know, their art is actually adding a lot of richness, that helps a lot actually to offset what you might lose by changing a material, by, you know, going for something a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, a little bit more in line with what the world needs, I think. So I would love to get access to extremely talented designers, artists, and so on. You know, I would love to have the chance to work with those people to crack that big challenge. So how to be, you know, like more sustainable and so on, but at the same time extremely rich and generous, something just wow. And there must be a way to do it. Then when it comes to the boutiques and the retail experience and so on, I love to work on shops. So I love to design shops. I love to build beautiful boutiques. Yeah, I'd love to create more of them. We created one in Oman that's, you know, has been a bit like, you know, something quite a beautiful story. And here, you know, it's the talk of the town in Muscat. So it makes me very proud. And I would love to have more of those, you know, those experimental spaces, something that is not dictated just by the fact that, you know, oh, like we need to, I don't know, we need to display products, we need to sell products and so on, but it's really about, hey, what can we propose? How can we use Amouage, the spirit of Amouage, and you know what it means and so on, in order to create a bit something, you know, disruptive in the fragrance category, because you know, it's a category that has become a little bit too calculated sometimes.
Yeah, that's really true, Renaud. And I would really like to mention one thing. We talked about packaging. By the way, you should definitely see some pictures from the boutique that Renaud is talking about in Oman. It's out of the world. It feels like you are on another planet, or at least from the pictures. I haven't been there. But talking about the packaging, Renaud, I think you already feel. I've been in touch with a lot of brands, and packaging often comes up as a topic, to use cellophane or not. You know, do you reduce the price of a fragrance and not create a very extensive packaging, because then the person thinks I'm paying for the packaging and not for the juice, right? Or not for the fragrance. So I think, at least in my opinion, I don't know what the listeners think, but I think Amouage, and you have been able to find that sweet spot, at least right now, from what I've seen. Uh, the fragrances have enough edge and the quality and signature, and the packaging is royal enough, and you don't need gold for adding depth. I think for me, I'm more of a sense man. For me, it's very important when there are smaller textures. I think textures are everywhere, from the box to the texture on the leather. So I think from my perspective, you've been able to find that beautiful sweet spot right now, where when I'm buying a fragrance from Amouage, I don't feel that I'm paying for the packaging itself, because that sweet blend between a beautiful packaging that looks rich and minimalistic, with the fragrance that has a strong signature and DNA. And I think that's really commendable.
And yeah, in my opinion, it's part of I think the packaging is part of the artistic proposition. So, just going for the message of, hey, what matters is what's inside the bottle, and then everything else, does not matter. Well, I mean, it's it's a position, and it's okay. However, I believe that actually the packaging, the bottles, the packaging is just actually an additional possibility that you have to make people feel something, and that would be a mistake not to do it.
Absolutely. Amazing. All right. So we'll see the question box once again. Wow. Oh, that's a difficult one, Renaud. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Julian, my friend, asks, what would you consider your biggest achievement so far working for Amouage?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's a good question. Well, what makes me definitely proud is, I'll give you a specific example. So yesterday I was very busy because I had to present actually the upcoming creation that I've been working on for quite some time to the sales force of Amouage. And the presentation actually happened in Muscat, and there were so many people. And that's and when I say so many, there were probably around 100 people or something like that, which, for a company like Amouage, this is big. And I recall when we started 3 years ago, the feeling was not the same. It was really about, like trying to bring back some kind of new energy into Amouage, and so that was really the beginning. And when I look at it today, when I look at my team, I've had the chance actually to be able to hire extremely talented people in the past 3 years, and it just makes me so happy. And the same with the perfumers. Like, I'm extremely proud. For me, it's an achievement that I'm able to spend that much time with people I consider, like the best of this industry. So in a way, to answer that question, I think what I consider my biggest achievement is being part, because I'm not the only one, but being part of that, that big, I don't know, big movement that we feel today around Amouage. We feel that there is traction, feel that there is, that there is support, and that, everything we do resonates in a way. And that makes me proud.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and thanks for answering this. I would have difficult time answering this. And talking about working with people, there's another thing that I realized that I found very nice and quite organic, is the fact that Amouage as a brand, as a luxury brand, is very much well grounded, and also kind of work a lot with the fragrance community. Mark is a very good example. He was kind enough to write. Hiring Mark was an achievement, but also jokes apart, maybe Mark, maybe working with Alexandre, working with Persolace. I mean that you have also somehow as a brand given chance to someone from the community and not always looking somewhere else. And I think that's really, really beautiful.
Yes, and I think it's. I mean, in my mind, I don't see that as giving a chance to someone, because I think what I realized, I've been working in the perfume industry for 15 years now, and I think that the online community has definitely changed in the past, probably, I don't know, 5 years or so. And if I look at it today, like, I'm surrounded sometimes by qualified candidates who come from the industry and so on, who I mean, I just don't feel the same passion
Right.
and
You're right.
and drive, because I think those people believe that somehow they deserve actually, to be there, while I'm sometimes interacting with people from the online community and so on, who have no background in the fragrance industry and so on, but they have this passion and this drive. And yeah, Mark is a good example of it, and I can name so many of people who we have hired or who I've worked with, who are so talented. Like, in the end, it's really about talent and hard work, and some people actually do work really hard in this community. Yeah, I think in the end it's just going for the best for each position or each job. So
Yeah,
that's
that's amazing. Right. Amazing. Thank you very much for answering that. Oman, I don't know how will I be able to take all the questions. But all right. Oh, there's a lot of good ones. How would you describe Oman in 3 words, Renaud? Difficult.
Yeah, and that question comes from an Omani. So Muji is part of my team. So he's actually the person responsible for a lot of videos and content and so on. So it's I would say, one, generous. Definitely. I feel very welcome here in Oman, and so generous, one. Second one is I don't know. I would say it's very unique in terms of country. It's really a unique beauty. And then the third one is what could I say about Oman? Generous, unique, and yeah, it's surprising. It's really surprising. Like, you keep on being surprised.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you don't want to hear any words, you should go and follow Renaud. I think what I love is your photography. There is, I think, it's the best way, so to say, um, to visit or to experience certain facets, and there you don't even need any words. And I think a lot of photography that you do, also some photos and videos that are on Amouage, they make you want to visit Oman, definitely. So completely agree with you here. What else? Willie asks, does Amouage consider to launch a new oud fragrance in near future? I mean, you already have an oud.
Yeah. So we just launched quite recently, actually, Silverwood. We have a few
Beautiful.
that do contain notes of oud, and Silverwood was probably one of the first one to really be built around a natural quality of oud. Oud Assam from India, and yeah, I think in general, I'm working on some ideas that do contain oud. I'm trying to not be too cliche about it, and and also I want to do something very genuine when it comes to oud and so on. So I'm really trying to understand right now the world of oud, but it takes a bit of time. So maybe not. We will see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Renaud, I was looking at the fragrances that I have in front of me that I like, and that I've bought in the last few months, and I realized there is a very common theme. That there is a Cecile theme, and then there is a Karin theme. So, is that also? I mean, I've seen the latest work, Boundless Material, etc. Also, a work with Cecile. So. Do you feel that what you want to do and what you want to convey, it also comes on very natural with these two ladies, among, of course, very other beautiful people. But again, at least what I like is always around these two beautiful creators.
Yeah, it's true that it's about understanding each other, and I think they do understand quite well what I'm looking for and so on. So definitely, I trust them. It's a question of trust, and they have two very different profiles. So I mean that's what I like as well. I don't want Amouage to be about one perfumer or one style. I want it to be about Amouage first, and then and what it means and so on, and then about the style of the perfumers, about my creative vision and my take on it and so on. But it's true. In the end, I like to work with people I appreciate, and it's we keep on working together. And one idea fuels the next one and so on. So sometimes, things come naturally.
Absolutely. I mean, when I see, if we talk about Cecil from how material smells like versus Royal Tobacco and the oud one, it's you see the range, right? So material is more Cecil style, sensual, warm, ambery, to silver oud, which is I haven't smelled a fragrance so powerful or such. Let's say it has much more Amouage DNA than any other fragrance I've smelled, at least. It's from the same creator. So for me, this range, look at Overture from Karin to Boundless. It's again a very different range, which I find very fascinating. And also from your side, from a creative standpoint, to bring that out of two beautiful creators out. I find it very fascinating.
And I mean, you summarized it quite well, the way I look at it as well, and if it shows a process, and I think it shows an evolution. So if you take the fragrances that we have worked on with Cécile, for example, originally with material, I was really trying to go after a very high quality of vanilla, so we were going for pleasure. It was all about liberation and so on, but I wanted like top quality take on pleasure. And I think, as you said, it feels like, Cecile's territory, what she masters and so on. And then I think we both realized the potential of, taking that she masters and then actually stretching that world and that universe by starting to add a lot of contrast. And Silverwood is definitely a work of contrast. And then Royal Tobacco is even more contrast and even more. But then, she also worked on the attars and all of that. So in a way, I mean, I would be oversimplifying saying that we go just for more complexity as we go. Karin, on the other hand, it's for me, I mean, what I love is her work on spices, her work on, the different, how she creates, beautiful complexities of materials and we keep on working on those ideas. So what I really love about Karin is that she's really able to, I don't know, to facet fragrances with many ingredients that I'm not myself, envisioning together, but for some reason, I mean, she comes up with
Very well.
those fragrances, and I'm like, well, it does work, and it's actually, matching exactly what I'm looking for. So it's always like that with
Right.
Kering.
That's amazing. That's true, and yeah, it's also, I mean, spices, Cecil, and the spices that she has used in Royal Tobacco, I was completely blown away because I personally, I don't think I have any tobacco fragrances because I always found it quite old style. And when I smelled Royal Tobacco, I was completely blown away because it's just a beautiful blend. It's powerful, but it's not overbearing. And the work on spices here, it feels like I'm in Oman, in a second. It's really beautiful. I think Royal Tobacco goes really high on my list right now, at least from the fragrances I've smelled this year. So really, congratulations to you and to Cecil on
Thank you,
this.
Raoul. Yeah, the goal was really to go, to create something that navigates between Oman and Cuba. So you really have like, and I saw, some people told me actually, is it a tobacco? Is it an incense? And it's really, that's why it's called Royal Tobacco, because it's really, a royal ojari, so the best quality of frankincense and
Hmm.
tobacco, and then many spices, many. Um, I mean, the thinking, it was really interesting. I really enjoyed the development process because it was all about, okay, we would like to have, like a fruity touch, but it
Hmm.
needs to be the most elevated fruit. What is it? And then Cecile comes with prunol because we have this dried plum note that is
Okay.
exactly what I'm. Then we want some cold notes. Okay, but you don't want something expected. So what about going for anise? What about going for fenugreek? What about going for licorice and so on and all of that? And it was really about creating all of those contrasts. Um, and I really enjoyed actually the fact that one round after the other, we were really building the fragrance and adding a facet every time and then smelling and saying, okay, now it goes a bit too much in this direction. Let's move it in that direction and so on. So
Yeah. Yeah. I also personally think Royal Tobacco definitely has that kind of a potential that other famous fragrances or iconic fragrances from Amouage in the past had, and I think it's one of the, yeah, probably its finest works from Cecil that I've smelt in the recent times. I'm really excited for everyone listening um, to smell Royal Tobacco. Definitely, highly recommended.
yeah, I mean, I love it as well. So, and yeah, it's I mean, I was quite curious to see how it would do, for example, in Oman. And actually, it seems like people are loving it. So, makes me really happy about it as well.
Absolutely amazing. Renaud, there's another question, a very good one. Divya from Dubai, she asks, are frankincense trees near threatened due to over and artificial extraction of frankincense? I saw a documentary about it, and I wanted to know your perspective.
It's a very good one. And so that documentary is actually quite an alarming one. That person might be talking about a documentary from Vice Media. I think it's called The
Could
Shady
be.
Business or something like that. It's really interesting. I mean, really interesting to watch. So first of all, it talks about the business of frankincense in Somaliland. And that business is quite different than the business of frankincense in Oman. Um, and the beauty actually of what we do at Amouage is that first of all, I mean, it's an Omani resource managed by an Omani company. The resource is not in danger in Oman at all. And we just announced actually a partnership with UNESCO in order actually to be involved in the management actually of the resource. And there are many things coming. So it's definitely a very sensitive and interesting topic, particularly because the demand for frankincense from aromatherapy particularly is very high.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, for Amouage, frankincense is gold. It's a very precious resource. The last thing we want is actually for it to be, to be endangered or something like
that. Absolutely. I have to watch that documentary. Thanks, Divya, for asking this question and Renaud for answering this. Let's take one or two more questions. Oh, okay. There you go. Irma asks, will ever be a new addition to the Secret Garden collection in future? I don't know the Secret Garden collection, but I'm open to learn about this. But there you go.
I am working actually on that. So the answer might be yes, if we do it. And I'm working on it with women's perfumers, but it's not Cecile and not Karine. So someone else. More to come.
All right. I have to explore then the Secret Garden collection. All right. Let's see one more. How much time do you have? Because I know that you said that you have to go do the podcasting.
Oh.
Sorry, no?
I might need to go in 2 minutes. I think we can take one last question.
All right. Okay. Then I think we'll have to definitely do another one. All right. So I think this is a good one. When looking in front, do you see big changes in the industry or the fragrance industry?
I think the biggest challenge, and I had some discussion recently about it, I think, high-end perfumery or niche perfumery and so on is driving a little bit more like the expectations of the market than before. I think clients now expect fragrances that are probably, more long-lasting, with more complexity and so on. And in the past, the industry was looking at niche like, oh, okay, like, those people are doing their thing and so on, but it's nothing significant or something like that. It's just like, a laboratory for new ideas and so on. And I tend to believe that this has changed. And I tend to believe that, some big ideas that were actually created by the so-called niche houses and so on inspired a lot, what is happening in the market and so on. So that makes me happy, because I think that might be a way actually for the fragrance industry to become again quite creative and so on. Because big companies being, very conservative and so on, that might be a way to inject actually disruptive ideas and so on that are then noticed and that then, somehow contribute to the overall creativity of the market. So that's, I think, what I'm seeing.
That's amazing. That sounds great. And also, thank you very much. I have at least 10, 15 more questions, and that's not even my questions. But thank you very much for answering these. We shortly talked about the library collection. That's the latest collection that Amouage came out with. And, try them, Royal Tobacco, Silver Oud, Reckless Leather. We didn't get time to talk about them. They are really beautiful fragrances, very creative, with Amouage DNA. And I can't congratulate Renaud, you and the whole Amouage team for such beautiful creations. Thank you very much, really, for beautiful experiences.
And thank you everyone for for joining. I hope that it was helpful. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions after this live.
Absolutely, and I hope we can do another one sometime, Renaud, where we can go deeper into the fragrances, because this one just went with so many interesting questions. So thank you very much for answering them, and being so open and warm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renaud.
Bye.
Have a nice one. Talk to you soon. Bye.